What's up guys, and welcome to Antron Fitness. This video is going to be about how to bulk. So I'm going to be showing you guys what I did to go from about 130, 140 pounds to about 180, close to 180, 185. And I did that in a couple of years using a lot of different methods. I've been through a lot of different ways of how to gain muscle, and I've probably researched and watched every video or article there is about how to gain muscle. And I've basically tried everything, and I'm going to show you guys what worked for me, and hopefully it'll help you guys as well. We're going to go over 3 points that I use to make sure that my bulk is going good and that we get as much muscle as we possibly can. 3 things we're basically going to go over are food, what to eat, how to eat, and how much to eat, your training, how much to train, how to train, and just how to put on that size. And number 3 is going to be just other points to keep in mind, like sleep, water, and your cardio, just so we don't become actually fucking obese, because that's never a good thing. You want to keep your fat to a minimum while you're bulking, just so you don't turn into a fat slob. So we're gonna go over these 3 things right now, and let's get into it. So point number 1, food. Food is gonna be the most important thing in a bulk. You're gonna be eating a fuck ton. If you wanna put on size, you have to eat. And it's very confusing when people say, yeah, I wanna bulk, and they just they don't know exactly what to do, and they're just eating a bunch of shit food and just being careless with their training and their sleep. And it's very hard to calculate if you don't have the knowledge that you need to bulk. So what should you eat during a bulk? I would personally stick to complex carbohydrates, animal-based proteins, and for your fats, I would say maybe throw some healthy EFAs in there, essential fatty acids. Let's go over what types of food should we eat. Carbohydrates. What type of carbohydrates should I eat? I would stick to things like cream of rice, oats, jasmine rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes. You could even throw in like a bagel or some honey or even some fruit juice. So yeah, basically anything just to get those carbs in. Protein sources. What kind of protein sources should we eat? So like I said, we stick to animal-based proteins because you want a complete protein source. It's very hard to get a complete protein source if you're getting it from things that are maybe vegan or plant-based. I have tried that personally, and it's just very difficult if you don't know what you're doing, and most people don't. For your animal proteins, that would be eggs, egg whites, chicken breast, lean ground beef or steak. You can maybe do pork if you like pork. I personally don't like pork, but some people do. And just to help you get that extra protein, because you do need quite a bit of protein on a bulk, you can always use things like whey protein isolate is what I recommend, because it's just the cleanest source of protein out there. It honestly is easier for me personally on my digestion, because when I do things like whey concentrate or other mixes of whey protein, my tummy usually has issues, and I know a lot of people that say the same thing. So I would say stick to those animal-based proteins and some whey protein isolate. And for fats, like I said, we want to have EFAs, and you can get those from things like nuts, avocados, olive oil, avocado oil, or even peanut butter. And peanut butter is a really easy one to get down. It tastes good in my opinion. Some people don't like peanut butter, but it packs a punch when it comes to calories. You can get quite a bit of calories in. Literally a dollop of that shit is 200 calories down the hatch. So that's very, very easy to get down, especially if you're eating at a surplus. Which brings me to my next point. How much do you have to eat on a bulk? This is a big question that I didn't realize for the longest time, and I was just thinking in my head like, oh, I'm eating so much. And I would have some Taco Bell, and I would go home and I would eat like a big plate of food. And then at night, I would slam a shake. But you never really know how much you're eating unless you're tracking your calories. So I'm sorry to let you guys down. You gotta start tracking your calories. It's the easiest way to just know that you're eating enough. Because if you're eating at a surplus, you're gonna gain some weight. You just want to do it the correct way with the right foods and very hard and intense training so that it does turn into quality muscle. how much do you eat? I would suggest starting your bulk at about 500 calories over your maintenance calories. Your maintenance calories are basically the calories your body needs to stay at the exact same weight. So if that's your maintenance calories, you're eating that every day, and let's say you're 175 pounds, you're gonna stay 175 pounds if you're eating at that maintenance calorie. So that's just what you need to stay the current weight. So if you want to bulk, you would be eating, a little bit more than your maintenance calories. And then once you gain that weight, your calories are gonna have to go up. But after that 500 calorie surplus and you gain that weight, I would start pushing it maybe only 200 to 300 calories upwards, because yet again, we don't want to put on excess fat. So we want to take it as slow as we can to really just make sure we're gaining lean tissue. So how do you find your maintenance calories? What I do personally, this is no plug, this is just what I did. I just searched up bodybuilding.com calorie calculator. It's going to give you a little survey, and you're going to enter your age, your weight, your height, and your activity level, and you want to put maintain weight, and then you press calculate. It'll give you a number there, and that is basically a rough estimate of your maintenance calories. So you want to get that number, and you want to eat 500 calories over that number. So you want to have that number, add 500 to that number, and that is your bulk calories. So you want to eat at that surplus for about 2 to 3 weeks. You should be gaining maybe a pound per week. But once you start to plateau and you're not gaining any more weight, that is when we bump those calories up a little bit, just so we can keep growing. And for as long as you want to take the bulk, depending on how big you want to get, you want to keep bumping those calories until you're satisfied with your weight or your look, and then maybe it's time to shred down and show off those gains that you've built. Now let's get into depth about how to really structure your macros in those calories. So for protein, you want to have about 1 gram of protein per pound of your body weight. So if I weigh 180 pounds, I would most likely want around 180 grams of protein. And then for your fats, you want to have those at about 30% of your calories. And then for your carbohydrates, you just fill in the rest of the calories with carbohydrates, basically. So you're going to want protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight, fats at around 30%, and the rest you fill in with carbs. There's things like MyFitnessPal. Yet again, no plug at all. I'm just telling you what I use. I personally use MyFitnessPal because it's probably the easiest. There's a way if you go to goals, and you can basically set a calorie limit for yourself, and you can play around with the macronutrients. You can put the amount of protein you want, the amount of the percentage of fats, and then you can just fill the rest with carbs until it's at 100%. It'll show you where it maxes out. So that one is really easy to use, and I do recommend it. There is things like MyPlate or some free versions of MyFitnessPal or other apps that can also help you track your calories. But that's usually how I structure my diet. So you want to basically try to think, okay, how many meals do I want in a day? If you want 5 meals, I would say evenly distribute your calories throughout those meals. Especially your proteins, because you do not want to be consuming like 80 grams of protein in one meal, because that will just wreck your digestion. You're going to want to spread your meals out about 2 to 3 hours so you can digest the meal and you don't feel like shit because you are constipated, because you are putting meals too close together. The moment you wake up, you're going to want to go to the kitchen and you're going to want to eat your first meal. As soon as you wake up. And then about 2 to 3 hours later, you're going to want to eat your second meal, so on and so forth. And just kind of spread them out evenly throughout the day and try to get them all in. Something that I do, and a tip that I have given to other people, is I set timers on my phone for my meals. I'll set one at 9 a.m., first meal of the day. And it just reminds me that I have to eat at that time. So you do want to make sure that you're cooking all your food. If you notice, I'm low on ground beef or I'm low on chicken, you want to instantly, as soon as you know it's low, you want to cook that just so you can have it in the fridge. And I make all my food I'll probably do another video on this, but I just cook all my food in Tupperware, the beef, the chicken, the rice. I do not meal prep. Like by meal prep, I mean I do not put them in the same container. Like I don't put like my rice and my beef and my veggies in one thing and have them all stacked up, because I noticed by doing that, it would get a smell to it and it would just be nasty. I wouldn't want to eat the food. It would just be sitting in there. And when you mix the foods like that, for some reason, they just get worse. It tends to just get old and smell really weird after a while. So I like to keep my foods separate and then just weigh them out as I go. Which brings me to my next point. You have to weigh your food. You have to know exactly what you're getting, because you don't want to just guesstimate, especially on a cut. Not as important on a bulk, I get it, but you still want to know that you're getting enough of that food, and you want to know exactly what you're eating, so you'll be accurate. Okay, so now that we've talked about food, let's get into the training part of it. You want to do a little bit less volume than you normally would, depending on what you're doing right now. I would suggest doing sets of 10 to 12 rather than a very high repetition. So you want to have progressive overload. And what that basically means is you want to get stronger, week by week. You might not, add another fucking 45 plate on each week thinking, it's going to be gradual. You want to add weight slowly that you can do, and you want to do full repetitions, but you do want to get a little bit more reps than last time or a little bit more weight than last time. So you want to progressively get better and stronger. For doing that, I suggest you track your lifts. Something I did is I just wrote on my notes. I had my workouts, and on my notes for my top sets, which means my heaviest sets, I would track the weight I did and how many reps I did. So if I would do the 80-pound dumbbells on chest press and I would hit 12 reps with that, and that's maxing out, that's everything I got. Next time, I would want to either do like 85, for maybe 10. And the next week, maybe I hit 12 with that, and then I can increase my weight. Maybe I could do 90s. Maybe I'll get 12 with that, Okay, I get 12. It feels good. I'll do the 95s, and I get 10 with that. And then you work up to 12. Maybe you get 8. It's okay. You want to work up to that. That's why, you got to push yourself in the gym, and you got to add a little bit more weight, or just go a little more intensely, or make it hurt that much more as a slow eccentric or something like that. Next thing, what split should I do? And how many times should I work my muscles each week? So this really depends on what works best for you. Some people do the bro split. So the bro split is usually hitting every muscle group about 1 time per week. So you will have a chest day, then an arm day, then a back day, then a leg day, things like that, just hitting everything once a week. Or you can do a push-pull legs split, which in my opinion was more effective at gaining muscle for me personally. It might not be the same for everybody, but for me that worked very well. I would do push, pull, legs. I would rest 1 day, and then I would do push, pull, legs again, and then I would repeat that 3 days on, 1 day off split. And it doesn't really go with the days of the week. It's not like you'll hit, push every day of a Monday. It doesn't work like that. You're trying to hit everything about more or less twice a week. So push pull legs definitely worked in my opinion. So I do suggest it to someone who's trying to bulk. It definitely worked for me. But if you're barely a beginner at the gym, maybe I would suggest a bro split, because it is a little easier on the muscles and you won't be as fatigued. For an intermediate or advanced lifter, I would probably suggest push-pull legs. And then lastly, I just want to talk about tips like sleep, hydration, and things like fiber and veggies or fruits. How much sleep should you get on a bulk? And does it matter? It does matter, because when you're sleeping, that is when you're growing. You can train all you want, but if you're not resting and if you're not recovering correctly, you can very much not maximize those gains. So I would suggest getting no less than 7 hours of sleep every night. And I would suggest, if you can get 8 hours or 9 hours, I fully recommend it. If you can get that little extra sleep, you're going to be lifting hard. Maybe if you're not used to it, you need those couple extra hours, but I would suggest 7 to 8 hours is more than enough. And then next, hydration. Hydration is a big one. Since you are eating that much food, you need to stay hydrated, and you need to flush all that food through your system. I've had times, I've been younger and I've been trying to bulk, and I shoved all this food down and I wouldn't be able to shit. I was wondering, like, why am I not shitting? And what that basically comes to is I was eating just so much chicken that I overcooked, and it was just very dry, and I had no fruits or vegetables or fiber or water in my diet. So that is something that can happen, and you do not want that happening, because that sucks. So I suggest drinking about a gallon a day, and just forcing it down. I drink most of my gallon during my workout, and it usually goes down pretty easily. And then the rest of the day, I just, make sure you just finish that gallon at the end of the night. Trust me, it'll help. And then the next thing you want to focus on is cardio. You want to be doing at least 30 minutes a day, I recommend, of cardio. Some people ask me, like, what type of cardio should I do? Should I run? Should I jump rope? Should I do, some crazy boxing session? I would suggest steady state cardio is probably the best. That's going to keep you from burning and wasting away your muscle from doing HIIT cardio. Anything fast paced or really intense could actually burn off your muscle and send you into a bit of a catabolic state, which is never good on a bulk. And if you're wondering how much or how fast you should do your cardio, you should be doing about 30 minutes of cardio, and you should be around 135 to 140 beats per minute. And what that's going to do is that's just going to put you at a pace to where if you do 30 minutes, you will more or less be burning about 300 calories. So per 10 minutes, you'll be burning 100 calories with that amount of cardio at that pace. But you want to make sure your heart rate is at that level. If you're going too slow, you're not going to be doing shit. So you just want to keep the cardio in so we don't get fat. And that basically wraps up this video of how to bulk. If you have any questions, please put them down below. And if I missed anything, or if you want to contradict any of my thoughts or give any info to me, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this helps you out with your next bulk. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys later.